All right, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Gene Girdley along with Ted Ings. And Ted, we have a lot more ahead. And one of the greats and a great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, really a legend in our industry, is back with us today. Les Silver, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you very much, Gene. Hey, Ted, good to see you again.
Good morning, Les. Great to see you as well. Les, we're so pleased that you're back to join us. Les Silver is, as Gene said, a legend in our fixed ops industry. Not only that, he's the executive chairman of Dynatron Software. Les, this has got to be, what, your fourth or fifth fixed ops roundtable now, am I right?
It is. You guys have created a tremendous forum for people that are interested in this part of the industry to be able to get together and share ideas. It's great to participate.
Well, you were the recipient of the Best Practice Award at our last event, and our audience is very much in tune to hear what you've got to share with us today. So with that, Les, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Ted. Let me just cue up my presentation here. What I'm going to talk about during the time that I have today is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure near and dear to the hearts of most of you, and that's driving service revenue. In the almost 40 years that I've been involved in the industry, I haven't yet come across a dealer who would say, nah, I've got enough. I don't want any more revenue. And that adds challenges to all of our days in figuring out the strategy to grow service revenue. And I thought I would outline a model that I developed several years ago to be able to put those factors into the proper context. So grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and I'd like you to do a little bit of a drawing for me. At the top of the piece of paper, if you make a circle and write into the circle the word quality, because quality, in fact, is a driver of revenue. If you're not delivering quality service, people aren't going to come back, and you're definitely not going to be able to grow the business. But when we think of quality, there are really two sub-factors that we have to consider. The first is the one that you normally would think about, and that's how well can we fix cars? Technical quality. Do we fix it right the first time? Do we have the ability to be able to take that customer's needs and turn it into a completed repair? That's one aspect. The second aspect, and maybe the one that's even more important, is the quality of the customer's experience. How do they feel about doing business with you? Is it a pleasant experience as much as it can be? And in many ways, that quality of customer experience will trump technical quality. Because if you create the relationship, and if you treat the customer right, they'll give you a pass occasionally if you don't get it right. But if you only focus on technical quality and create a bad experience, you're really only going to have customers that come back when they have to, and not when they come back when they want to. And that's not where you want to be. So that first circle is quality, technical quality, and quality of customer's experience. The next circle is what the sales themselves are comprised of. And we all know that labor drives the sales. And if we look at labor, what is the factors that create your labor sales? Well, there are three knobs that we can turn. One is get more customers. More customers, all things being equal, will yield more sales. The second is, what do we sell in terms of hours for each customer that is in the service drive? And the third factor is, what do we charge per hour? And it's a math formula, and it's a simple one. Your labor sales equals the number of customers times the hours per customer times the dollars per hour, which means you only have three knobs to turn if you want to increase your sales, and that is get more customers, sell more to each customer, or increase your pricing. There is no place else to turn. It's much simpler than we think it is. Of course, there is a parts component, and parts and fluids and often accessories are also part of your sales, but generally they flow from what the labor side is. So there's a parts to labor ratio often that governs that relationship, but if you get more labor sales, you'll usually get more part sales as well. So the second circle on your diagram is sales. The third circle on your diagram is the capacity of your shop. Now, what constitutes your capacity? Well, again, we have three sub-factors. The first is the number of customers, the number of technicians that you have. More technicians yields more capacity, again, all things being equal. The number of technicians also is governed by the technician efficiency. How efficient are the technicians in turning hours? Same number of technicians, more efficiency yields more capacity. And finally, the hours of operation. Are you a standard 8-hour workday? Do you have extended hours some days of the week? Do you have full second shift? Do you work Saturdays? Do you work Sundays? The hours of operation really also govern capacity. When we look at these three factors, we have to recognize that there are lines drawn between them all because they're interrelated. For example, if you don't have enough technicians to do the work, your customers are going to be impacted. Jobs are going to get carried over, jobs aren't going to get completed on time, and that's going to impact on your quality. If it impacts on your quality, that in turn will, at some point in time, impact on your sales. So we have to recognize that these are interrelated factors, and you have to focus in turn on each of these. I like to consider this an example. I'm old enough to remember the Ed Sullivan Show. Some of you may or may not be. And there used to be an act that would come on where the guy would put a whole bunch of sticks across the stage and would twirl the plates on the stick.
Les, I watched that recently on YouTube. He had like 10 plates going. I don't know how he did it. Sorry.
Well, he did it because he's a service manager. A service manager is an expert plate spinner. And he'll start off by spinning the first plate, and he'll run across the stage and spin the second plate. And just when he thinks everything's running well, he'll spin the third plate, and the one at the beginning starts to wobble, and he'll go back and give that one a spin. That's your job every day, is keeping the plates from come crashing down and recognizing that we've got to keep those plates spinning in such a way that's going to allow you to grow. And balance here is the key, because if you over-focus on any one of them and ignore the other, pretty soon that plate's going to come crashing down. So we have our diagram in front of us. Quality, the sales, and the capacity determines what the revenue is going to be. But I want to make sure we understand that we don't really run only one shop, that we have different categories of work that in fact create sub-shops within our shop. So you've got 5 businesses. You've got the customer pay oil change business, where many of you have express lubes or express lanes that you have to run. The factors of how do you get more customers into an express lane, how do you sell in an express lane, how do you price in an express lane is different than those same factors in other parts of your business. You have CP maintenance as another significant chunk of your business. Again, they're different. And the rules that you would use, the KPIs and the indicators of what's good or bad performance varies depending on whether it's CP LOF, CP maintenance, CP repair, 3 different businesses. Warranty is a different business. Internal is a different business. So you need to be aware of the fact that there are those 5 different businesses and have KPIs to measure each one of those separately. When you talk about, for example, ELR, you can't just talk about overall ELR that combines all 5 of those businesses. You should talk about ELR as it applies to each one of those businesses separately. That way you know what your competitive environment is and whether you're pricing appropriately and marketing appropriately for each of the sub-businesses. One of the points that I'll make is that if you have no spare capacity, you're stuck in the water. You can't grow, because shops won't be sold, hours won't be sold if they can't get done. That capacity is a big constraint. And a service advisor is going to be reluctant to upsell things that are needed if the work can't get done, because they're going to get the world of heat at the end of the day if that customer is disappointed. So if you're going to be looking to grow your business, you need to be looking downstream at your capacity and determining, when am I going to bring on that next incremental chunk of capacity so that can turn into either more customers or more sales per customer to be able to grow that business. What is your current priority? If you put this diagram up on the wall, and ask yourself every day, where am I? You'll find that you move around quite a bit. You move around often by day of the week. Monday, Tuesday, maybe capacity is your constraint, where your guys are finished work at 3 o'clock on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You need to understand that, because your strategy needs to be evolving depending on where you are on a particular day or a particular time. So I hope this is a useful construct for you to organize your thoughts and determine where should I be spending my time when it comes to building the revenue side of my business. Thank you very much, guys.
Again, you have a marvelous ability to take something that's complex and make it simple, easy to understand. And I love the graphics, and I love the way you explained it. And you know, it's so true that service manager is spinning all those plates, and once he's got that third or fourth one going, you got to go back for the balance right to the first one and keep it moving. So great analogy.
Thank you.
Les, how does our audience get a hold of you to learn more about Dynatron software and what you do?
Well, I'm going to go out on the limb here, and I'll give you my cell phone number. You can give me a call anytime. It's area code 619-204-5556, or you can contact me by email at les.silver@dynatronsoftware.com.
Les, we're so honored to have you here as a big part of the Fixed Ops Roundtable family. And thank you for all that you do for our industry and educating the people who are coming up in the industry and learning just so much more. So thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Les. You do such a fantastic job at these events, and your presentation is always dynamic. We appreciate it. It's so valuable to those of us who have been in fixed ops for quite some time. So thank you very much again. And Ted, now we are going to welcome another great in our industry, another friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's David Boyle from Tire Profiles.
And if he's honest, he'll tell you that he learned everything from me.
Absolutely. Well, Ted, up next now is the actual person that Les said, I taught him everything he knows. David Boyle, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey guys, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. So I understand that Les said he taught me everything he knows. Probably true when it comes to a business perspective, but I'm still a better golfer. So that's all that matters, I think.
All right, Dave Boyle, great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable from Tire Profiles. Dave, the show is yours.
Thanks, Ted. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak at the roundtable again. It's quite an honor to come and speak at these events, and I really appreciate this opportunity. My topic for today is rethink business as usual. You know, the events of the last 6 months have really caused many of us to rethink our businesses and our personal lives and much more. And for many dealers, this period of business uncertainty has really exposed some weaknesses in their businesses and has many of them scrambling to now adapt and prepare for the future. I'd like to talk specifically today about another specific threat to the dealer's business, and quite frankly, one that's been around forever. Customer defection is the single biggest contributor to business uncertainty that dealers have. Think about this. We spend ungodly amounts of money trying to attract new customers, sell them cars, and then at some point during the ownership cycle, we allow them to defect. And then 3, 4, 5 years down the road, when we want to sell them another car, we start this process all over again. We all know that the opportunity to connect to that customer is so much greater in the service section of the ownership life cycle. We've got many, many more touch points that allow us to connect with the customer, yet we allow them to slip away from, in many cases, and then we have to try to get them back when it's time to sell them another vehicle. And losing the customer to the aftermarket has unbelievable costs to the business. And it's not just the loss of the potential service and parts revenue, but it does in many cases mean that either we may not get the next vehicle sale, or it's going to potentially cost us a lot more to get it. And spend money on these types of things dealers do. And in some cases, they spend crazy amounts of money. Reminds me of a story that I heard lately. A couple of months ago, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a service director at local dealership here in Dallas. And I was talking to him sort of this post-COVID thing and asking him how business was going. And he said, he said, it's an interesting time right now, Dave. He said, my RO counts are still off. My revenues are still off, but I'm making more money now than I ever have before. And I said to him, I said, well, why is that? And he said, I've got less expense now. He said, as an example, he said, before COVID, I had 12 porters and now I have 5. And I said to him, well, can you operate your business with 5 porters? And he said, absolutely, all day long. And I said, well, how did you end up with 12? And he said, well, my dealer. And I do. He said, he's that type of guy where when he comes and visits the service department once a week, if he sees a customer standing around in the service lane for a minute or two and hasn't been greeted, he's in my office with his hair on fire, wanting me to get another porter, because certainly we can't have a customer wait 30 seconds before they're greeted. This is the type of stuff that we do in this business and have done in this business to chase the elusive customer satisfaction, which we believe leads to loyalty, retention, and hopefully that next vehicle purchase. And my question is, do we need to do these things? We need to do all of these things. I mean, we certainly need to provide good quality service. We need to provide convenience. We need to provide all of the things that I think for the most part dealers do, and yet we still struggle in this area. If we're losing dealers to the aftermarket, and that's where the majority of them are going, is the aftermarket any better than us when it comes to providing service? My business is somewhat unique. I have the opportunity to see both the dealer side of the business and the aftermarket side of the business, as my company sells products in both areas. And the question that I have for the audience is have you been to a fast oil change place lately and sat in their waiting lounge? It's not the Ritz. It's not a car dealer. We like to think, or the industry would like us to think, that they're more convenient. Let me tell you something. Try going into a Jiffy Lube on a Saturday morning without an appointment. You better take a book, and a thick one, because you're going to be there a while. The reality is that the aftermarket isn't any better at us when it comes to convenience. It isn't any better than us when it comes to certainly the atmosphere that we have people waiting in and things of that nature. We do a much better job than, quote unquote, our competition, yet we are still losing customers to our competition. And that is the question that needs to be answered. Why are we losing customers? Why are they defecting into the aftermarket? And make no mistake, they are defecting. This chart's been around for a while. Anybody that's seen prior presentations that I've made have seen this chart. This is commonly referred to as the waterfall chart, and it shows that between the period of about 30,000 miles to 50,000 miles, we lose over half of our customers in service. Why is that? Why is this happening? Because obviously, if we can figure out a way to stem that flow out the door, then that's going to have the type of impact, positive impact, that we're looking to have on our business. So why is this happening? Well, one of the obvious things that's happening is that right in the middle of this is when the end of the basic warranty coverage ends. This is the first time when the consumer really looks at us as a dealer and says, well, do I have to continue to go back there? They did have to continue to come back if they wanted their warranty repairs done. But at this particular point, when they're spending their money instead of the factory's money, they now believe they have choices. But is that really what's causing them to leave? Think about this. It's not like at 35,000 miles, all of a sudden the wheels start falling off cars. That doesn't happen. It's not like there's a huge need all of a sudden just because the warranty ends. Something else is happening and something else is driving this, and that is the need for tire replacement. The fact that the tires need to be replaced and the fact that it coincides with the end of the warranty is what's driving most of this defection. We need to understand this, because it is the tire that's the key to this, not the end of the warranty. That's the thing that they need. And for some reason, they believe that we're not able to offer them what they need. I want to shift gears for a second a little bit, and I'd like everybody to kind of just sit back and envision something for me. So it's a Friday night, you're going home from work, and it's date night, and you stop in at your local grocery store, and you pick up a couple of steaks, you get a bottle of wine, maybe a dessert. And while you're there, you pick up a couple of staples for the pantry. You get some milk, you get some bread, some eggs maybe. And you roll up on the cashier, and they start checking out your items, and they get to the gallon of milk, and they take the gallon of milk off the conveyor belt and they put it down under the counter and they say, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, but we no longer sell milk here. We don't make any money on it, so we've stopped selling it. We're happy to sell you the steak and the wine, but we've stopped selling milk, and you're just going to have to go elsewhere to get your milk. This is what it's like to buy tires today at a car dealership. Every day we give customers the impression that we really don't want to do it. We don't price them properly, and we act like we don't care. We don't want to sell them the milk. We only want to sell them the things that we make lots of money on. And that's very short-sighted view of the business. So it's not only time to rethink business as usual, it is time to rethink tires. As an industry, we need to change the way that we look at this very, very, very important part of our business. So what does it look like today? These are some of the typical things that we see that cause people to say, well, the dealer's not in the tire business. You're either so horribly overpriced that they wouldn't ever buy from you anyway. And that happens far, far too often. The tires are not in stock, or in most cases, they're just not offered at all. We see this in my business. We see this every day. We see customers come in with 4 red tires and they leave with 4 red tires. They're not even offered. And then when we talk to dealers about it, it's, well, I don't make any money on tires. If I sell them tires, I may not get the brake job. I don't want to sell them the milk because I want to sell them the steak. We need to change fundamentally how we look at tires, and it starts with changing our process. So what does that look like? There's a couple things that I'd like to share with everybody today that sort of outlines how this looks and how this should look in your business if you really want to get serious about being in the tire business. The first thing is something that I like to call sell the green. I am really trying to make this part of the mindset of our industry. We need to be talking with tires with every customer from the very first visit. We have a really bad habit in our industry of only talking about things when we have an opportunity to sell something. It makes us look super greedy, and it makes us look like we really don't care about the customer. We have a massive opportunity to do something that nobody else in the industry has, especially the aftermarket. We have that customer captured for the first 2+ years of ownership, where they're coming back to us for the needed warranty repairs. And we have a captive audience at that point. We need to be selling the green. We need to be talking about tires from the very first visit and giving the customer the impression that we are, in fact, in the tire business. But that's only the first step. The second step in this is you cannot let this guy determine your retail selling price. Listen, I have a love-hate relationship with parts managers, but when it comes to tires, these guys are part of the problem. If you allow your parts manager to dictate what your retail selling price is based on the margin that he needs to make based on his pay plan, then you will never sell one tire. You cannot sell tires to anybody with a 40+% markup on parts. It just doesn't work. And fundamentally, many dealers say, well, I won't allow this to happen, but it happens every day. We have to understand that these are more commodity type items, and we have to be market driven when it comes to pricing. The next thing is you've got to stock some tires, but you don't have to stock a lot. You need to stock the popular sizes. Let me tell you something. The aftermarket, again, I see this because I'm in aftermarket shops every day. They don't stock any more tires than you do. It's not like these guys have big, huge warehouses out behind their facilities. Okay. They stock the fast moving ones just like you do. And in many cases, you can get the oddball ones quicker than they can. This notion of, well, it's inconvenient for me because I got to stock too many tires, which is often driven by the parts manager again, is just simply not the case. You must stock the fast movers so that you can get the customer in and out if you're going to be competitive with the aftermarket. And the last thing I want to put on this, and probably the most important thing is that this requires a change in mindset. And let me tell you what I mean by that. We have been doing oil changes in this industry since the beginning, all right? And in the last 25, 30 years, oil changes or longer, oil changes have become a true loss leader. It means we sell oil changes for another reason, okay? They are the trigger for the service visit. The oil change, has always been the reason for the customer to come in and get their regular maintenance services done. And the oil changes and the appointment for the oil change is what drives that visit. So we use the oil change as a loss leader. Again, to use the grocery store analogy, grocery stores put the milk at the back. And the reason they do that is because you have to walk by the steak and the wine in order to pick up the milk. They know that you're going to pick up other things that when you're there. We use oil changes for the exact same reason. We need to view tires in a similar manner. The tire is the key to retention. It's your tool to keep the customer coming back. I'm not suggesting you should lose money on tires, but you need to price them and view them the way you view oil changes. Nobody views oil changes as big money makers because there's another reason at foot here. The tire is the same situation. The tire is your catalyst to bring the customer back. So I want to leave you with one final thought. Sell the tire and save the customer. Don't go hire 10 more porters. Spend some effort and some money here. Sell the customers what they need. You'll retain more customers and you'll sell more cars down the road. Rethink business as usual. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with everybody today. And I guess, Ted, back over to you.
Dave Boyle from Tire Profiles, wonderful job. And I really appreciate the analogy. I enjoyed that of the milk as the tires, and it really hits home. Tire Profiles does a wonderful job for the dealers of the Roundtable, and your technology is so far advanced of what anybody else has, Dave, in the industry, and the way you've thought out how you do business for the dealers, and you've put a lot of thought into that, and I can see why it's so successful what you're doing. So we want our dealers to reach out to Dave at Tire Profiles to get the latest. And Dave, you and I have an event coming up in about 4 weeks. It's our next Fixed Ops Roundtable.
We do. I appreciate those kind words, Ted. I appreciate that. And a while back now, it's been what, 6 months, we started talking about doing one of these that was just tire centric. And I'm so excited about this because I really I think that, tires are so important, and hopefully, a little bit of the message that I've given today will help reinforce that. But tires are so important to dealers' future and success, which is why we've dedicated our company to try to help dealers do better at this. That I believe that it warrants its own summit. And I think you and I agreed on that we just need to spend a day talking about tires and what are the things that are in the way of allowing dealers to be successful, and how can we create processes and tools and training and support and the things that dealers need in order to take back that business. It's a massive business opportunity that the dealers have, but more importantly, like I've hopefully conveyed today, it's much bigger than just selling the tire. It is so fundamental to their business and long-term retention and selling the next car.
Dave Boyle at Tire Profiles, and you won't want to miss it, everybody. Fixed Ops Roundtable number 8, the Tire Summit. So thank you so much, Tire Profiles and Dave Boyle, for all you do.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Ted, it's always great to hear from David Boyle, and he will be sponsoring the Tire Summit in October at the next Fixed Ops Roundtable. So we're excited about that. But now we have a great panel coming up, and it's how innovative dealers win with recalls, and it's sponsored by Recall Masters.
Gene, I'm excited because this is the first time at the Fixed Ops Roundtable we've really had a chance to go in depth in recalls. So I wanted to thank Sean Reyes from Recall Masters for really assembling and putting all this together, Sean. I know it took a long time, but I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. And I also want to go ahead and thank and turn it over to our good friend of the Roundtable, Tully Williams. Tully, take it away.
Thank you, Ted. Hey, I just want to say thanks, Ted, for providing this great platform for all of us in Fixed Ops. It's long overdue. But I am super excited to talk about recalls as we've been in this huge pandemic when stores have struggled to find out where are we going to get those hours. Recalls have come to the rescue. And again, I am so thankful to have Sean from Recall Masters here. As our group, the Niellos, we were very thankful to have that. Sean, why don't you give us a few comments before we get started?
Thanks, Tully. Well, it's a pleasure for Recall Masters to be part of this event. A special thanks to Ted and the folks over at Center for Performance Improvement for pulling our industry together to share best practices, showcase dealer solutions that are really having an impact at this time. And while recalls are relatively a timely topic for dealers, we've been pioneering these strategies for more than 5 years and improving on them. And we recognize that recalls are really a great way not only to protect the OEM brand and to do the right thing by our consumers, but to reinforce relationships that dealers have with their existing customers, win back those customers who maybe flock to independent repair shops, and win over new customers who maybe felt abandoned in their moment of need by a competing dealership. So I can't wait to hear from the panelists and to invite all of our attendees to find out what Recall Masters can do for them. Thanks, Tully.
Well, Sean, thank you, Sean, very much. I just want to give you my personal piece right here before we get started with these great 3 teams. One is that when the pandemic hit, when this cars stopped coming through the door, when we had no hours to sell in customers, what did we do? We went after those recall lists, and those things actually made us through those horrible, horrible months. And again, as I like to say, it's all about the hours, and 2, it's all about repeat and referral business. And what better for us to go after new customers that we haven't gone through before. So super excited. So we have 3 great guests today. First up is Adam. Thank you so much, Vice President from the Island Auto Group. Rodrigo, Service Manager at BMW, and Patricia and Curtis from BMW SouthPointe. Thank you all for joining us. And we're going to start off with Adam. You have a great perspective when we look at the dealer side and the factory side. I am sure curious to find out what are the differences in recalls as you were in the factory and now you've transitioned to the better side, by the way, dealership side. Tell us the story there.
Yeah, thanks, Tully. Good to be with you. When I think back to my time as an OEM executive, and I had the opportunity to be with 2 brands, which I'm fortunate of, I used to sit at my desk thinking about how do we help dealers find those customers out there that bought a pre-owned vehicle, and we as an OEM don't have their information or their data or any ability to connect with them. And, the dealers would go out and they try to buy different lists and piece them together. But to this day, the OEM doesn't have that information on the second and third owners. The dealer doesn't have that information. And most of those customers are out there visiting the aftermarket, often not coming to the dealerships. And now that I'm on the retail side and have been for the last 4 years, one of the things that really was bothering me is this kind of race to the bottom that we all have, advertising a lost leader oil change to drive customers in that we haven't seen before, only to find that that's all they really buy is that lost leader oil change, and then they leave. And I felt it was just a waste of our staff's time. It wasn't profitable, and it just seemed like we were repeating the same thing over and over. So I went back to sitting at my desk as an OEM executive, but now on the retail side, asking myself, does anybody have this data to go out and find who are these second and third owners? And, it's interesting. There's a lot of companies out there and some great ones that will contact customers with open recalls for you. My question to them as I was interviewing them, since we pilot and benchmark everything for our 20 rooftops, was, where do you get your data from? And eventually the answer I got was this company that's powering most of them is called Recall Masters. So I called Recall Masters because what better place in my mind to go to than the source? And, through a lot of discussions with Recall Masters over about 6 months, because we take our time, what I found is that they have created these relationships with the state DMVs to buy that data for the second and third owner. And I can tell you, going back to the OEM days, we didn't have that data. And because of privacy laws, we couldn't go out and buy that data and then regurgitate it to the dealers. So it's kind of in no man's land. And ultimately, we began to pilot some stores. You talk about recalls with Recall Masters because they had data that nobody else had. And what we found was this. Instead of driving in an oil change customer who didn't spend money with us, and sometimes they might drive in 50 or 100 of those, but they still weren't spending money, Recall Masters took that data that we don't have and that we can't get, started calling, texting, and emailing these customers in our marketplace with open recalls and getting them to come into our dealership. And just to be very transparent, it's not 100 customers a month per dealership. We're getting about 25 or 30, in some cases, a larger store like our Toyota store, maybe 40. But the quality of that customer is just so incredible. So what we've experienced, I can't say what everybody experiences, but what we've experienced is that customers coming through and we're making sure they have a great experience. And they're coming into our dealership in many cases for the first time. So the data match back that we looked at shows that about 30% of the customers that they drove into the recalls had never been to our dealership before. And about 20-ish% hadn't been to us in 2 to 3 years. So they were just lost. And at the end of the day, to kind of summarize things here, they're spending with us an average of $545 a repair order, which is incredible between the recall and customer pay, versus an oil change customer coming in for a loss-related oil change, maybe spending $50, $100. So we're getting a higher quality customer, and we're getting a customer back to our dealership that had completely left us or never been to us before. And it's an incredible quality of a customer to go after an open recall customer with data that we as dealers and formerly us as OEMs just can't get our hands on.
Well, Adam, I think that when you look at that, it's amazing that the factory doesn't have this data set, and how, companies like Recall Masters came in and made that happen for us. Because, as you were talking, we're all in the repeat and referral business. And what you said is, I'm getting 40 to 50 to up to 60 customers a month that could turn into repeat and referral. To me, that's a massive home run.
Yeah, Tully, it's really amazing. And again, manage expectations. In this case, in my opinion, because of the ebb and flow of open recalls in the industry, no matter what brands you're talking about, you may have months when you're going after open recall customers that you have a lot more customers, and months where you have less because the recalls are completed or there's not a new recall that's come out. But when those customers are in the market with open recalls and they themselves don't know that they have an open recall, think about this. And this is what I tell my team all the time. The aftermarket, which is littered around all of our dealerships, up and down the streets, they can compete on many levels, but there are a few areas they cannot compete on. They cannot tell a customer if they have an open recall, they cannot complete the open recall. So it gives us a competitive advantage to go after that customer with the help of Recall Masters, since they have the data, we don't. They have the call center. Maybe you want to use your own call center. I prefer to outsource it and not staff up for it, since there's ebbs and flows to it. And when we go after that customer has no alternative but to come to the OEM dealership to get that recall completed. And that becomes our opportunity. And we're seeing really good revenue results from it.
Well, God bless America on that. That is just a home run. And Adam, thank you for that insight. That was awesome. Next up, Rigo. Wow. I love kind of what you talked about, where you're getting those incentives out for those customers and opportunities to drive that customer into the driveway and make that repeat referral business. Tell us some of the things that are working at your store and the successes that you had using that marketing piece.
Absolutely, Tully. Thank you for having me first off. So what I do is I've implemented the gift cards from Recall Masters in a few different ways. So here's the first one where I've implemented them to really grow my customer base. So two things is we're gonna focus on retention and growing our customer base. One is immediately every service manager out there should go to their sales department and hand these gift cards to every purchaser of a new and used vehicle. The $50 gift card to increase your customer base so they return to you as a customer from the sales department, because currently we don't know how many of these customers you capture from your sales department. So this is just one additional tool that you can utilize to bring those customers back in. Second, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
The second one, if I'm going too fast, please stop me at any time. I got some great points here, and I know my time is limited.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. The second one, recall appointments. We want to get all these recalls in the door, as many as possible. But again, what is the capture rate? What's the take rate? Here is where I offer the gift card, a $50 gift card for every recall appointment to entice the customer to come in. hey, you know what? We're going to set you up with an appointment to complete your recall, and you're eligible to receive a $50 gift certificate for needed service or maintenance when you come in or for future repairs. Really, really, simple, and it works. And again, it's not going to be your only tool that you have in the toolbox for retention and getting these customers in the door. Another one is I use it for inactive, dormant, and lost customers. Get together with Recall Masters, and they help me out with a digital gift card sent via email blast. Run a report in your DMS. See who hasn't been back in a year. Don't let it go past 13 months because they're becoming inactive. You want to get a hold of those customers. Us with BMW, they're inactive, and after 13 months, it's going to start turning into a dormant and a lost customer. So utilize the gift cards. Get them in. I mean, it's identical to these credit card companies where they reward us with points, right? I mean, I love my credit card because now I can shop with points everywhere on Amazon. I mean, I can stay at a hotel, which I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but that's a conversation for a later time. So inactive, dormant, and lost customers, great thing. But here is my favorite. So how many dealers out there do mobile service? We do over 70 mobile Takata, awesome, mobile Takata airbags a month, over 70. So I have a dedicated technician. So what do? I fill this young man up with gift cards, and I have him hand them to the customer at the time of the mobile repair. And we thank them for letting us come out to complete the Takata airbag recall, and we hand them the gift card. They need an oil change, they come right back, utilize a gift card, and we just turn the lost customer into an active customer. Very, very simple.
When you're looking at your gift cards, do you see the people using it at the same visit, or is it for the next visit coming in?
It's the most of the time it's for the next visit.
Well, that really drives that repeat and referral business with that gift card, especially when you're doing it on the repeat turn, which I think is the most important, because if they come in for the recall, get your wow and a gift, the odds of them coming back must be extremely high.
Yes. And you could create an opcode to track it if you'd like in your DMS. I mean, by no means am I a professional. I just work 12 hours a day to try to get it done. That's all I do.
Well, great. Well, Rigo, I love that story, and I love the successes that you're having. And it's funny that you mentioned that little bit of mobile service. And this brings us to our final guest. Patricia and Curtis have really knocked it out of the park on utilizing mobile service, going out to those independent lots. I am super excited to hear how that story goes. Patricia.
Hey, Tully. Hi, Ted. Thanks for having both of us here. We are honored. Very excited to share some of our trade secrets, I guess, with everybody else. But they're really not secrets. But we kind of, during these times, we really have to think outside the box, right? Everybody, all the panelists are talking about bringing people in. Curtis and I sat down when this thing happened. If you know where we are, we're in Durham, North Carolina. I'm 8 miles from UNC. I'm 8 miles from Duke. And majority of our business comes from those two and RTP, which is the Research Triangle Park. I've got IBM, Glaxo, so everybody worked from home. No one was driving. So what did we have to do to generate business? And that was mobile service. We had to come to them. They were not feeling comfortable in late March and April, come out to us. We didn't know how to handle it in the store at first. We were getting used to what was happening, sanitizing, keeping our staff safe, but also the clients safe. So what we decided to do, we kind of kicked up in high gear, really. And we said, oh my God, we were thinking about mobile service, but now we have to do mobile service. So I got together with Poe, who is part of Recall Masters, and we brainstormed. And I said, look, I've got a BMW. I'm going to sticker it up with all of our dealership stuff on it. We outfit it with all of our own tools. And the main reason why we did that is, we wanted to keep that. If the technician changed, if my technician's on vacation, I can pull another technician right into it. We had a laptop, we had a key reader, we had battery testers and basic tools. We also had batteries, air filters, microfilters, things that is going to move while he's out there, right? And upsell, things that we can upsell. And we hate that word, but let's be honest, it's the truth. That's why we do it, right? So the clients, we started getting all these reviews back. And CSI is everything for us in this business. And they started going, oh my God, this is so awesome. This is so unique. So that really, really helped generate income while we were unsure what we were doing here at the store. Then we kind of brainstormed again and said, well, what else can we do? I think, Adam, you said you had a whole bunch of independent dealers on your side of the world. Well, let's work with them, right? So they have recalls, and the only people that can do recalls is us. So our days that we could fill up with clients, we use our technician to go out and did all the, we call them rock lots, or, you know, independent dealers. And we would set up and they would have 3 or 4 cars there, and we would do it all at one time. So that was a really, it's kind of working with your teams. We're all in this together. So we started with a 25-mile radius, and now we're out to 75-mile radius.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of neat. And it's just thinking outside the box, because we can't think.
So initially when Recall Masters got presented to us, you know, we were like, okay, is this the manufacturer trying to meet NHTSA, trying to get their number up? And part of that is yes, right? And it's a benefit for us, it's a benefit for them, right? So it was a two-way street. So we signed up saying, okay, you know, if the numbers they're telling us are 50% true, we're going to get a good lift here, right? And we've seen, you know, lifts, you know, very much like Adam's, and we'll take that, right? Because the initial investment, it's worth it, right? You're getting that money back. One thing we also started doing was having him doing video MPIs when he was out there as well. So he was basically getting into the car, doing a video of the car for the client. So they're not coming out and saying, you know, hey, you turned on my seatbelt, you know, whatever, my harness is broken now, this is broken now, these lights are on. You know, he was doing it and sending it to them and making some recommendations. We also then repurposed our shuttle drivers, because people weren't taking advantage of our shuttle, and started doing concierge. So that same customer that didn't want to then bring their car back in for something else that we had found during that video MPI, we said, hey, no problem, Tully, we'll come tomorrow. We're going to drop a loaner off to you. We're going to pick your car up. We'll return it back to your same spot by 5 p.m., sanitized, you know, touchless, the whole thing. The manufacturer was waiving signatures on ROs, helped us to expedite that repair as well. So, you know, Poe was really great with us on the rock lots. Truth is, we had a lot of relationships with those guys already through wholesale. So we were able to talk to the parts director and say, hey, Todd, who do you know here? What do you know there? Oh, yeah, my friend's cousin, he works there. Hey, get that guy on the phone, because we were able to get past the gatekeeper, talk to the guy who was in charge, and he said, yeah, because we were basically telling him, hey, these short harnesses could catch on fire, right? And you guys could be liable having sold a car with an open recall. We want to help you. Truthfully, it helps us.
Right.
The guy said, absolutely, come tomorrow, send your guy.
It opens our
Now,
PMA up too.
When I look at what you're doing, is that I think that when you look at what Cox study did a couple months ago about pickup and delivery and mobile service, I mean, the overwhelming was like 89% said yes. Honestly, I don't know why it's 100%. And I think when you look at a pandemic, like you mentioned in your triangle of high tech there, I mean, most of those high tech people will probably work from home probably for a long time. And you already jumping on board on that, providing that recall or that maintenance to your house is spot on. And then if it does need a repair, you're going to do the pickup and delivery. I mean, it fits right into it, doesn't it?
Yep. And our special order, Joe, non-existent.
Yeah, because we were starting to do those too, right? So if it was a safety special order part that was, you know, coded control unit or something like that, we were sending that out with the mobile guy as well, right? As long as he had Wi-Fi and could program it. And it helped our service effectiveness. We had just moved about 5 miles, got a new PMA. Our service effectiveness, we dumped 2,000 more customers into our bucket. We needed to get that number up. We want to be center of excellence. We're chasing that, you know, like everybody else. And the way you got to do it, right, is one handshake at a time. And we felt that doing this was a good way to do that and give people basically, you know, a meet greet to our store, whether it was here or there.
And I imagine the manufacturer loves that you're actually getting the recalls done in your area, aren't they?
Absolutely. And that's why you have to have, you know, somebody that helps us think out of the box, because you can only do so much. And like, you know, with you guys being recall masters, being out in California, it helped us kind of, hey, these are what some of the dealerships are doing out here. So we're adapting nationwide different ideas. And I think just because we're here in the South and it might not affect us a lot or somewhere else, you have to change in these times, and you have to change fast. That's the biggest key.
So the question I have next is that how did your techs respond to going out there? Are they getting the hours they want? How is that piece?
It's great because BMW actually helped with like the airbags and there's about 3 recalls that they pay time and a half. And they're realizing that, they're doing the same repair, whether they're here or they're out there, but they're getting paid more. But he's doing a lot of upsells too. And the technicians, you have to find the right person because they're the face of the dealership. They can't come in and see this. Yeah, I mean, we have a beautiful building. Our building was just built 3 years ago. And we have the best Wi-Fi. We have a Starbucks bar.
That's why it's only 89%.
Yeah. So that's the reason why, whoever you send out there has to give the wow. And, we have a technician that absolutely loves it. He lives and breathes it. So you got to find the right fit also. But once you do, you have a couple of them and they love it. If they're slow, they rather do something. Most technicians, when you ask them, they'd rather be working than just, not doing anything.
What we tried with him is praise and pay are 2 great motivators in the auto business, right? And we guaranteed that he would make the same money that he was making with his hourly average of the last year, and said, you're at X amount of dollars, X amount of hours. You're going to do this for 3 months. We're going to both see if we love it. If we love you, we love doing it, but do we love you and do you love doing it? We're going to buy the tools. We're going to equip the vehicle. You have to drop it off here at night. You can't bring it home. And it worked for him, and he's still doing it, and it's really worked out to be a great thing.
And I'm seeing that wave across the United States that forward-thinking dealerships are really going after that mobile service. My good friend Ed out in Florida has been doing it, and it's been a catch-on. I love to hear your story of you doing that service, and it's a catch-on, and the customers love it, and now the technicians love it. What more can you ask for?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I just tell you, looking back at these 3 great options, first up is if you look at the manufacturer versus the dealer, Adam said, what did he say? The data, having the company give you that data to go out and find those customers and find those people down your street. Rigo did an awesome job about how do we market those customers with gift cards and trying to drive that repeat and referral business. And finally, our good friend Patricia and Curtis said, what about going out to the customer, going there, doing that mobile service, going to those pop lots and making sure those recalls? 3 huge deals to make your success. Starting off with our good friend Sean at Recall Masters and giving that access to us. Sean, why don't you give us some great final comments?
Well, as you could tell, Tully, a very impressive group of panelists. And I think the one thing that you can take from this is that every store is different. Every market is different. That's how we should treat our customers as unique people that really have come to you in their moment of need. So it's time for our industry and your dealership to really engage these people who are desperate to connect and find a partner who can help them in this moment of need. And these are dangerous recalls. We can't forget about that. And it turns out that really doing the right thing by these consumers and being there for them presents some really significant revenue opportunities for dealers. So it never hurts to talk. Thank you all again for including Recall Masters as part of this. This is our pleasure. I'm so proud of our team.
Well, thanks, Sean. I want to say thank you to our guests. We had, I think, a really good insight of some options that you can do a takeaway today at your store and make a change at your store. Again, I want to say thank you to Sean and Recall Masters. And again, my good friend, and thank you, Mr. Ings. You've done an incredible job helping bring Fix Ops into the light. And God bless you. Ted.
Thanks, Ted.
Oh my gosh. Hey, everybody. Adam, Curtis, Patricia, Rodrigo, Sean, Tully, just a magnificent job. Tully, great job moderating that panel. You really brought out, I think, the best in everybody. And we can't wait to bring you all back again. All right. So this was a very worthwhile discussion. Sean, real quick before we go, I got to ask you, if somebody wants to learn more about Recall Masters, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can visit recallmasters.com, or they can hit me directly on email at Sean, SEAN, at recallmasters.com.
And everyone, if you get a chance to look in the virtual event program, which we've posted the URL, you can go ahead and click directly to contact any of the speakers here today, and you can get a hold of Sean there as well. So on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you, everybody. Gene, you're going to take us into the next break.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. Yeah, hi, everybody, and bye, everybody. We're glad that you joined us. We appreciate that. What a great panel that was. And we're so excited to have groups like this on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. You want to stay tuned because coming up, in fact, Ted, we've just started. We're going to hear from the women's panel. We're going to hear from the service training panel. But telling us what is coming up right after the break is our friend, Mr. Ben Price.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry Seinfeld. I host Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And we've influenced a lot of other shows like Carpool Karaoke, Funny Uber Rides, and of course, the Fixed Ops Roundtable. But you know what the most comical thing about cars is? Dealerships trying to deliver great customer experiences without the help from folks like, Corey Roberts, from myKaarma, Melissa Terrell, and Lori Tennant of Dealerware, Service Director Mark Mickens, John Traver of Traver Connect. Stick around.
I love it, Ben. And I'd like to remind all of you, get out your phones right now. Open your camera and scan this QR code. It will take you to our Best Practice Award voting site where you will make a decision on our top presenters. Just remember, you can only vote once and not by mail.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, everyone. I'm Gene Girdley, along with Ted Ings. And our next presenter, who is a friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, but also, even though he leads one of the best and greatest technology companies out there for automotive, he's actually going low-tech with this presentation.
Yeah, Corey Roberts is the Chief Revenue Officer of myKaarma. First of all, Corey, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you for having me here, Ted.
And indeed a technology company for sure. I recently, Corey, as you know, brought my vehicle in for service. I have a BMW X5, and I shared with you that once I left the dealership, they sent me on my mobile phone a little text, and it said, it was in the corner of the screen in the video, it said myKaarma, and it was a video walk around of my vehicle being checked in that day of the service. So Corey, hats off to you, great job, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you, Gene and Ted. It's great seeing you again and everybody out there today. And yes, we are taking a little bit of low tech. I know myself and even our customers at times, especially in this unprecedented time, we're over-indexing on technology. So I will share with you that, my goodness, when I was coming up, and my gosh, from my first years as when I was in this business, technology to me then, and all of our communication tools were the phone and text and foils, for what many of you people don't know, overhead projectors and things of that nature. Today, my goodness, what we have to deal with swiping. What does that mean? I mean, swiping, if we talked about it years ago, we think the connotation there. Texting, early on, people made misreferences or didn't quite hear you clearly when we talked about texting. And now this video enablement, my goodness, think about video and what it means to us today. And then now we have to contend with, for us as baby boomers, we thought that was great, baby boomers. But today, Gen Xers and all of these opportunities. And you know what? So that we are taking a bit of a break. Plus, it actually helps me keep me on pace for our presentation today. So hopefully you all get a kick out of it. I'm getting a kick out of spending some time with you all. First, I'm going to share with you a little bit about who we are. But what we're going to do specifically today is talk about 5 dreams. In my 23 years that I've been in fixed operations, we've all had those Andy Rooney moments. And when Ted and Gene invited me to speak with the Fixed Ops Roundtable Conference, I thought about, what would I want to hear about? Some of us talk about the silver bullets, but I fear these drains, and I'm sure you do too. So we're going to talk about those. But what I also want to do is just think about, are you being rewarded for addressing those drains and getting your share? We'll talk about that at the end. But let's go ahead and just get a few things just settled, things that we all know. But through the conversation, I think this is going to tip the scales for some of our conversations today. So a few important numbers at a glance. We all know the US population is growing, swelling every year, 330 million people. We wrote about 320 million ROs within the dealerships last year. And then what we know, why are we here? Thank you, Ted and Jean, is fixed ops, while it only contributes 12% of the revenue within a store, it's nearly 50% of the profit at 49% of the profit. 12% of the revenue, 50% of the profit. So if we're not earning our stripes, we certainly are now. There's 5 things that I want to talk about, but before I get to the first one, we're going to talk about why do work to do work. There's so much clicking around today. Number 2, the landmine. Do you know that there's 150 million texts going to landlines every day? Are we capturing our share? We'll talk about that. The third is money matters, MADDERS. Imagine the challenge that the dealership faces every day, reconciling all of your departments, sales, service, parts. What kind of tools do you use? Is the DMS doing its job? I don't think so. Are the merchant service providers doing their job? They don't have access to DMS or the ROs. I think we have something for you to think about there. The fourth is going to be emerging demographics. Do you know that today, 21.6% of Americans over 5 years old speak in language other than English from home? That's 71 million people. We'll talk more about that. Are we capturing our share of these emerging trends? And then what we all hear about, the lift. Lift equals lift. We're all looking for lift, and we're all looking for the numbers that prove out all these claims that folks make about, increased RO, et cetera. But that lift is important to us all. So we'll talk about all of them. So first, we're going to explore, why do work to do work? What's that notion all about? Well, what I will tell you is that as a customer, we talked a little bit earlier, I want you to know me. So one thing that's really important is advisors. There's so many different things that advisor is tasked with. And our technicians today, our technicians do so much work. One of the things that's really important now is taking a video. But technicians often, worry about and make some claims that I'm doing these videos, but those videos aren't being presented. But one thing that we're going to talk about at the end of our discussion today too is if a technician takes a video and it's seen by a customer, 30% of those recommendations are accepted. So the thing is, why do work to do work? How many times do we have a scratch or a ding? And if a video and photos weren't taken at the walk around, who's right, who's wrong? How many times does a vehicle owner question a quote from a service advisor? He said it was $1,200, but what's presented is $1,500. How many times do we have invoicing concerns? So we get this backup at the cashier, where we have challenges and then those disputes are settled by some form of discounting. Why do work to do work? Shouldn't your systems work for you? So our belief is that why don't these systems have a single common thread? If in fact there is a dispute about that quote, what if that conversation was recorded? If it was on the phone, if it was text or email, but more importantly, if it was recorded. During the walk around, are we taking those videos, and are those videos of high fidelity? And then also, why do we have to rely on those service advisors to do everything? How many tasks does a service advisor have? Far too numerous to count. I contend that why isn't the technician viewed as a doctor? We look at our doctors as consultative. Wouldn't a technician understand what's wrong with your car? Why wouldn't we make the car the star and then allow a technician to present his or her findings? And if we do it on video, guess what? A vehicle owner is likely to respond in a favorable way. So why do more work? Why make a service advisor do that work? Because a technician often feels that, why am I doing this video if those additional service recommendations aren't presented? So we believe that there's an opportunity to capture some of those just drains by eliminating work just to do work. The second notion that I talked about is this notion called landline. Play on words there. I mentioned earlier, 150 million texts are being sent out today. We all know that. And at best, the only answer that you get is an unanswered text from some type of provider. But most commonly, probably 140-ish million go into ether and aren't even addressed every day. What if you could capture that opportunity? What would it mean to you? Is it one additional opportunity today? Might it be a dozen or so? The thing is if the dealership would share with us just one number of all the assigned numbers that you have throughout the dealership, that one number could be assigned to myKaarma. Guess what? We can capture all of those and it becomes part of the single thread. Then we know you. Something to think about, that landmine quagmire. The second is money matters. The reconciliation drama. Many of us have been there, and it's only natural. So we say it's natural, so guess what? It's a practice, it's a process, we have to accept it. Well, I contend there's a better way. Why is batching out so hard? You know, why is everybody chasing the missing $15, the missing $50, or heaven forbid, the $150? Every day, every night, the general managers, the fixed ops directors, everybody in finance has to come together and track down all these expenses. Perhaps there is a way. Do we rely on the merchant service providers? Do we rely on the DMS? No. There are systems out there that work seamlessly with the merchant service providers. There are systems out there that work with the DMS providers. But there's only one system out there that allows you to capture all of that information. Credit card, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, check, cash, be able to reconcile them by department and automatically post them every day. What we hear oftentimes is a multiple hour, very frustrating process is a seamless 15 to 20 minute interaction. So this whole notion of money matters in this friction, the fact is you don't have to accept it. Don't accept that. There are answers to that drama. What we all know too is if we get the controller and finance on our side, it's amazing how things can happen for us in fixed ops. Emerging demographics, we hear about it in the news all day, but it doesn't really matter to us. We're a dealership. Whether we're in Iowa, whether we're in Tennessee, or heaven forbid, as we know, that we understand in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles, we have to deal with all of these languages. But guys, let's welcome it. Do we welcome these emerging demographics? So once again, what I would say is, as I mentioned earlier, 21.6% of Americans over 5 years old speak a language other than English at home. 10% of Americans don't speak English well or at all. What we also know that a sizable chunk of your base prefers to speak in another language. Are we capturing that? What I can also say is everybody is, do we know what that number means to us? If in fact there were 320 million ROs and there's 18,000 dealers, there's 3,900 customers on average that your store could serve. If we say that the average RO blended is $350, that's an additional $1.4 million of revenue before you start seeing any lift for additional services or products that you have to offer. So if you can speak their language, will they go elsewhere? I say, heck no. We could have customers for life. Is it worth it? So what I'll share with you is team, do we have a solution to address those emerging demographics? If you're not, you should ask yourself, why not? The lift. All of us understand the lift and what it means to our business. What I'll share with you today, my thought is here, seeing is believing. We talked a little bit about the technician and his or her use of the video. What we do know, though, that if the vehicle goes up on the lift, that wheels come off, 74% of the repairs are right there. But what if by chance a CV boot is torn and needs to be replaced? How do you convey that? The power of the video for that technician, once again, who's consulted in the doctor, can take a picture of that picture and a video of that, describe the solution, the fix, and then the vehicle owner can be back on their way without worry. That all can be done in a matter of minutes, communicated to the customer, 90-second response, and then guess what? The vehicle stays on the lift, comes off the lift, and what we found is service advisors and technicians both are rewarded, tremendously. A 30% plus lift. So what I want to leave with us today is to say that, are we getting our fair share? And my contention is I'm earning my share. I want you all to earn your share. Share to me is an allotment. Share is what we earn. Take advantage of those drains. Good luck. Looking forward to seeing everybody in October.
Corey Roberts from myKaarma, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Ted and Gene.
Ted, it's always great to hear from Corey Roberts and the folks at myKaarma and everything that they're doing in our industry. And another leader in our industry are the folks from Dealerware.
Dealerware is a giant in technology, and we'll welcome you to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Melissa Terrell is the Vice President of Customer Success, and Lori Tennant is the Senior Director of Manufacturer Strategy. Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Ted.
All right, the show is yours.
Thank you so much, Ted. We're so excited to be here. Today, we're going to talk about embracing digital tools to create out-of-dealership experiences to help drive profitability for dealers. So a quick bit on Dealerware. I promise it's not a pitch, just a little bit of why we're qualified to speak to the changing landscape today. So Dealerware started about 4 years ago, very humble beginnings. We got a phone call actually from the service director at Audi Stevens Creek. He had just had an amazing rental experience using the Silver Car by Audi app and wanted to know if there was potential to help him solve his customer problems using his loaner vehicles. So Dealerware was up for the challenge, and we sent a team out there to really start to dissect how we could reduce friction for his team and his customers and create a lot of value. So there were three main problems we identified. First was the manual contracts. Customers were standing in a line down Stevens Creek Boulevard waiting to get to the loaner desk. Once they finally got there, they had to provide all of their information, which was manually copied. And then they were signing a contract and oftentimes weren't reading it and had no idea what they were agreeing to. The next were the actual cars. So once the contracting process was done, the dealership staff had to put the customer in the loaner. Well, oftentimes they didn't know where the car was. It could be a half a mile down the block. In addition, once they found their car, it was often dirty or not fully fueled, which again was a pretty bad customer experience. So as you've heard me say, customer is really at the center of all of this. We really wanted to create a solution that met customer expectations, provided transparency and consistency. So that's what we did. Dealerware created a digital mobile-first SMS-based contracting app. It was 90% faster, offered single button billing, so the dealership could not only provide a great experience, but recover costs such as fuel and tolls. In addition, we connected telematics into Dealerware. So we provided dealerships a digital dashboard to see where all their vehicles were, including vitals such as mile, fuel, battery level, etc. And all of this has resulted in a great customer experience. It's consistent, transparent. Customers know what they're agreeing to when they get into a loaner, and there are no surprises. Our Dealerware customers now see about an average of $65 of VIN a month in cost recovery alone, as well as increased efficiency for their staff, but also for their fleet with an average 15% increase in utilization. And let's not forget to mention the 27-point increase in service initiation CSI index for our dealerships who use Dealerware versus those who don't. Overall, about a 10x ROI. But what we've learned managing over 30,000 vehicles and working across 25 brands is that if you don't master fleet management, mobility is going to eat you alive. And this isn't just mobility for loaner fleet management. It's things like lot management, extended test drives, pickup and delivery, basic rental, and subscription, which are also really exciting revenue opportunities for dealerships. So we know with the industry changing, mastering your fleet is more important than ever. The industry as a whole is seeing monumental changes. We all know new vehicle sales are down, and we have generations even wondering if they need a vehicle. And these generations are being approached by an abundance of alternatives, which are very customer-centric, on demand, and all trying to take a piece of the pie. Not to mention that COVID has impacted almost every industry, with automotive being one of the hardest hit. So we know we need to be more customer-centric and adapt to new customer preferences, but we're being asked to do that with less customer interaction. So how do we get there? It's really all about embracing digital tools. We've seen 10 years of acceleration in the past 10 months, with digital no longer being its own department. Dealers who want to compete really need to take a connected, mobile-first approach. Today's environment really does require contactless experiences. This is vital to not only keep consumers happy and safe, but also unlocks a lot of different mobility options for dealers. If harnessed correctly, this right technology can help you simplify your operations and offer way more convenient and way more customer-centric experiences. In June, Dealerware launched contactless contracts. We saw over 10,000 contracts created in just the first 2 weeks. And we surveyed customers, and 75% of them are going to continue to use contactless experiences beyond COVID. So this is not a trend. This is something that will be here to stay. And it's important that dealerships have the technology in place to provide these contactless experiences. But contactless experiences aren't enough. You really need vehicle intelligence. And it's important that you connect every vehicle on your lot. When you do this, you unlock a ton of opportunity to help with cost reduction, increased efficiency, and even new service models for customers, such as pickup and delivery. To bring it all together, I'll tell a quick story about one of our customers, Audi Mechanicsburg. They've had Dealerware in place for a few years, really taking advantage of digital tooling. They have always had a really robust valet service, offering pickup and delivery to the majority of their customers. However, when COVID hit, a lot of things changed. Luckily, Audi Mechanicsburg was able to keep operations fully up and running and really not skip a beat. You know, they did face challenges such as staff reduction as well as increased concerns over cost. But by using Dealerware, they tweaked some operations, started charging customers for fuel and tolls to help offset some of the cost concerns, but maintained an exceptional customer experience. So again, even with reduced staff, even with heightened cost concerns, even with customer concerns over safety, Audi Mechanicsburg was able to address all of them, keep operations normal, and keep their customer experience at an exceptional level. So out of dealership experiences and even new revenue streams can definitely seem overwhelming. We understand that, especially when you're just trying to keep your head above water. But with the right digital tools in place, you can start delivering these experiences with the staff and the assets you have in place today.
That's great. Thanks, Melissa. I do love that customer success story about Audi Mechanicsburg. Great job on their part of adapting their business to challenging and changing times. So what we have learned is that a small investment in simple technology can enable digital experiences that will untether your operations while delivering the experiences modern consumers demand. So let's talk about out of dealerships experiences. It's a hot topic. Melissa's already covered it a little bit earlier on in the presentation. So back in 2019, pre-COVID, we ran a study with JD Power and found that 89% of consumers would choose a dealership that offered pickup and delivery over one that did not. Pre-COVID, that was only about 4% of dealerships offering this service. COVID forced many dealers to have to learn to adapt, just as we saw with Audi Mechanicsburg. And today, it's really a must-have for many dealers. A recent survey of over 400 of our customers found that 85% of dealers that have been offering this service as a response to COVID plan on continuing to offer it after the pandemic subsides. So pretty interesting stats. Not offering these types of services may put you at a disadvantage because a dealership down the street could be offering that. But the good news is that you don't need a big investment of time and resources to offer these services. Melissa's tips and tools can allow you to do just that with your current staff and vehicles. Not only does J.D. Power show an increase in CSI score of 38 points, but when it becomes a nice to have after COVID, customers are actually willing to pay for it. So what we see is that our study with J.D. Power shows that consumers are willing to pay between $26 and $50 for this service. That could help offset your costs and maybe even allow for a profit, but it's also going to drive loyalty to your service department. So knowing that customers may be uncomfortable about coming into the dealership, what can you do to retain your customer base? So New York dealers, for example, were not allowed to have one of their associates in the vehicle with a customer during a test drive. So they were forced to do at-home test drive, bring the car to the customer. And what about an extended test drive? You could even treat that as a rental, perhaps charge the customer, and then apply that rental rate off the price of the vehicle if they end up purchasing the vehicle. Not only is it a safer experience, but I think it's going to allow the customer to really love driving your vehicle. And then what about a customer who comes in for a service and you offer them a compact loaner car? They see a really sweet premium car on your lot. Maybe you can even charge them $10 to $20 a day to try out the fancier car. It's a win-win. They'll have a premium driving experience. They may even end up buying a car from you. And lastly, there's lots of ways to monetize your fleet. What about if you have your cars sitting on the weekend? So in your market, you have strong utilization during the week, but they sit on the weekend. You could monetize your fleet, maybe charge $20 a day, $30 a day. It's better than nothing. And it's a great opportunity for your customers to come in, see your beautiful dealership, expose your brand. Everybody's happy, and it keeps the miles down on their own personal car. So before we run out of time, let's put it all together. We want to embrace digital tools that are truly mobile first. This will allow you to deliver a differentiated experience that customers are going to value. It's going to drive new revenue streams, but all with the same assets and staff that you have at your dealership today. With that, Melissa, I'll turn it over to you for one last comment.
Great. Just wanted to reiterate, we have more on the guide to retail in the new normal. That will be available to everyone after this. So please read and let us know if you have any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa and Lori from Dealerware. I learned a whole lot more about your product and how it came about. You know, service pickup and delivery, you mentioned that. That's been a big part of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I would guess, since late last year. And Brian Benstock is bringing a lot of that to the forefront. He just spoke a little bit earlier today. And, you know, we've learned so much, you know, especially through COVID, what's happening with that. What are you doing in terms of service pickup and delivery? Are there any specifics, any integrations, anything you're doing on that, Lori?
Yeah, well, the nice thing about the Dealerware platform is even without a third-party integration, you can enable pickup and delivery just with our technology. You know, we're very mobile focused, so you can use your current staff and vehicles and our simple technology to enable that today. But we do have some very exciting partnership announcements coming. Actually, within about a couple of weeks, you'll be hearing more. So stay tuned.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lori. Melissa, how can our audience learn more about Dealerware and what you do?
Definitely. Well, feel free to always visit www.dealerware.com. You can reach out to our team direct from the website, as well as access customer stories, new announcements, all the goodness. So don't hesitate to swing by there or contact Lori and I directly.
And Melissa and Lori are both in the virtual event program that you can go in there and you can see their bios and you can go and click right on the links and it'll take you right to Dealerware as well. So thank you, Lori and Melissa, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks again. We appreciate being invited.
Well, Ted, it's great to hear from partners like Dealerware, and it's also great to get insights from leaders in some of our top performing dealerships.
Gene, it's a great privilege to welcome back to the Roundtable a good friend of this conference, Mark Mickens, the Fixed Operations Director at Lithia Mercedes-Benz of Paramus. Mark, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted, good to see you again. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon to everybody, and it's really an honor to be part of this once again.
You know, originally, Mark, you and I met, let me think now, going back about 10 years when you were running had a Ford dealership, a very large dealership, and were known for not just your service operation, for servicing older municipalities, even as far as into New York City. I believe the New York Fire Department, NYPD, but you were also known very much for your prowess on the parts side and a lot of inroads you made there.
Yeah, we it was Route 23 Auto Mall. I was one of the dealers at Route 23 Auto Mall at the time, and we did have the Department of Citywide Services contract with New York City for about 16 years, and it was a tremendous business, and it gave us a platform to launch a much larger parts wholesale business, and proudly say that we were in the top 10 of wholesaling for Ford Motor Company for a really long time, and actually the dealership still is. So. The staff that I worked with when I was there, they're still plugging along and doing some good things there for Ford as we speak.
When you spoke at the Fixed Ops Roundtable in November of 2019, where, by the way, you won the coveted Best Practice Award, I remember.
Yes.
Fred Beans also spoke that morning. He was the keynote speaker, and he picked you out of the audience, and he said, there's the guy who gave us a lot of trouble on the parts side, because I guess you were a real competitor to the Fred Beans parts operation.
Fred says that. I don't know how much of a competitor I was actually really to him. I think I might have been a little bit of a pest, but maybe not a competitor. I learned a lot from Fred, and I would say that probably the biggest thing is that Fred was always a very gracious man when it came to business. He never really, he was a good share. He shared with you. He didn't, I know that we were competitive in some of the markets, but Fred never treated it that way. He was always very forthcoming and he really did help me a lot. And I always appreciated that from Fred, and I really consider him a good friend.
So now, Mark, you are the Fixed Ops Director at one of the really growing Mercedes dealerships in the nation, Mercedes-Benz of Paramus on Route 17, which is, the facility is just an absolute palace. I got a chance to come up and visit you there recently, and it's a Lithia store as well. Tell us what you got going on there.
Well, it's great. I mean, obviously we had some struggles with, like everybody else with COVID. Our stores in Bergen County, which Bergen County, New Jersey, if you go back historically now, and with the COVID outbreak, was the epicenter for the COVID outbreak in New Jersey. So we had some challenges, and I have a great staff and a great team of people, and we were able to hold it together through the months that were tough, and we did what we had to do, and proudly say that my team and my staff did it. We did a tremendous job of keeping the store open and keeping our staff safe, and actually keeping the lights on for a while. And now we're coming out of one of the best quarters the store's ever had. We'll finish up September. And, we are really emerging as one of the top Mercedes-Benz dealerships in the country. That was our goal. And, statistically, we're getting there. So we're really proud about that. We have some work to do, and we're doing it. And, but we're chasing some of the top dealerships in Mercedes in the country, like our sister store downtown LA. We're getting close. We had a really good competition with them the last couple of months as far as numbers go. So they were a benchmark, and a great benchmark. It's a great dealership, but we're right there. So I'm really proud about what we're doing, and my team just keeps delivering every month on the things that we need to do for Lithia.
Mark, you're known throughout the area in the automotive retail business as somebody who's a real innovator and, who thinks on his feet. And, as you mentioned there, we all got thrown a curve earlier this year, and there were some tough months, especially in northern New Jersey. Tell us what you got going on, and tell us, what are you doing now to capitalize on all this business and take care of the customers?
Well, we had to, again, being the problem that we had in Bergen County, to keep our business going was that, nobody really was coming to the dealership. So, like many other dealerships, we started pickup and delivery. Learned a lot from listening to Brian. I know he's, keynote speaker at today's event. And, I've learned a lot at the roundtables listening to him in that regard. And, we really got aggressive as part of Lithia's initiative. Lithia launched in the second quarter of this year their driveway initiative, which is any business that you can do with a customer at their home or school or work, wherever they are, bringing the whole transaction to the customer. It's called Driveway. It's Lithia's initiative. But we started our mobile service project last October. And, we conceptually started last October, obviously not knowing how badly the COVID would affect our business. Sometimes timing's everything, or better than lucky to be good than good. But we had started the project last October. We had ordered our mobile service vans before the holidays. And thank God we did, because obviously there was a big delay on the upfit of the vehicles that we bought. We have 3 vehicles now, 3 mobile service vehicles capable of doing a multitude of repairs at your home or your work or your office, wherever you are. We come to you, and the icing on the cake to us was the technology that we were able to put in all the vans. And that was, we partnered up with myKaarma, and myKaarma's mobile platform allows us to have a rolling service department in each one of the mobile vans when it comes to appointments and video MPI and all the things that we're doing in people's driveways and homes now. So a lot of the things we lined up, back in October that we talked about, staying ahead of the curve a little bit. I didn't really think getting into mobile service was actually innovative. I was afraid of not getting into it and it costing us customers. So, had learned that from the Ford side. Ford had a big initiative on mobile service in the beginning of last year. And I kind of caught on to that a little bit and thought we'd bring it to the Mercedes side. And it's worked out really well for us, because we've satisfied a good obligation to the manufacturer. We're piloting this on the East Coast for Mercedes-Benz, and it definitely fits into Lithia's initiative with Driveway. So it covers what we're trying to do, but it's also, we're really excited about it. It's probably the most exciting thing I've done it personally in the last 10 years. It's been really invigorating.
2 questions for you. Number 1,
sure.
How far will you travel? What's your radius? How far do you go with the mobile service? And 2, what type of work are you able to perform? Give me, a range.
Great question. So what we did with we have 3 mobile service vans, all different varieties. What we did is we took each van and we kind of segmented a repair segment to that van. So, we have a light repair van that covers mostly roadside incidences in our area. So to answer your question, 25-mile radius, we try to stay in our roadside call area to start. Great thing about myKaarma is that they have mapping in there through Google Maps. So we can do that. We can do our appointments and route the appointments for the whole day. So that works out great for us. But, we segmented the repairs through each van, and we can do anything from your basic scheduled maintenance to we can, repair windshields, replace windshields. We can program keys. We can program modules. One of the things I did we have, I brought the wholesale parts mentality with me to Paramus Mercedes-Benz. And the one thing we've really gotten into at mobile services with our body shops, a lot of the componentries in Mercedes-Benz, if you're replacing a airbag module or a headlight module, it all has to be reprogrammed. And the body shops used to have to bring the car to us when, mid-repair. So one of the services that we've offered our body shops, which is going really well, is we come to them and program the modules at their store. So that's been a big hit for us too. So all the way up to our main unit, which can pretty much do anything you would do in a tire and auto store setting. We can do tires, we can do brakes, we can do batteries, wipers, scheduled maintenance, small recalls. So we can do a pretty wide variety of repairs.
So you mentioned 3 trucks, is that right?
Correct.
So that's like you basically have 3 more bays, I guess, in your.
That's how we look at it. And the way it's going right now, again, using Karma and our website, people's ability to make an appointment online. It's kind of exploding. I made the mistake of putting the alerts on my phone. So on Friday afternoon, I had them taken off of my phone because that's how much interest we have in it. I went out on the first call myself with my technician just to see how it would go and how all the plans that we had laid to see how it was going to work. And we rolled up to the customer's house, and he was waiting for us. And we started, preparing his car to get the service done. And he starts snapping pictures. And I thought it was pretty great. And then he goes, "I'm sending this to all of my friends." And just the advertising that we're going to get out of that, I was pretty pleased about the visit at his house. So we're excited about it. I just think it's something that's going to really take off for us. So
the trucks are looking really good. It's like a mobile billboard as well when they're on the road. What hours of operation? How late do you go with the trucks typically? Is it 5 days a week or more?
It's 6 days a week, and we kept it into, we're a 7 to 5 operation in the shop. So we mirrored it the same way. Our mobile services has a lot of inside support. We have a parts person that's dedicated, each day to mobile service for hotshot deliveries to where we're doing the work. And we also have a inside service team. Our service advisors work in teams. So we rotate every week, and there's a different team that handles all the mobile service inside through Karma communication with the technician and the customer. So that's how we handle it.
Let's talk a little bit about your at the dealership operation. I remember when I walked I think I came in through your showroom when I arrived, and I immediately smelled the aroma of the Starbucks coffee, and I gravitated over to the Starbucks, which I have not seen in too many dealerships in the nation. So you've got an active Starbucks in the store. How did that come about? And, tell us what that's done as well.
Well, we did a Auto House 6 renovation of our store with Mercedes-Benz, and the suggestion of a cafe inside the store, was something that we really gravitated to, primarily because for our employees and our customers, of course. But we have a large amount of employees at the dealership, and to keep people in dealership all day long and have, we have lunch and breakfast and coffee all day. And it's really a big hit with our employees as well as our customers. And that's
and Route 17 is a pretty busy highway. So I imagine if there was a Starbucks nearby, they'd be running down there anyway,
Yeah, correctly. It really kept our employees in the building, kept them, a little bit more productive when it came to, most people eat, now everybody eats lunch in the building, and we have a really nice setting in both sides of the store. We have a great cafeteria for our employees and a great cafeteria for our customers, and the cafe is great, and we have a good cook. So that's the key to the whole thing.
And finally, as far as the service and parts operation, give us the picture there. How many technicians? How many bays? How many advisors? Parts.
So it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. Probably the biggest challenge of my career, and I'm sure anybody that you would talk to during this time, I don't ever recall a tougher situation where, on a Saturday afternoon I furloughed 80 people and made all of those calls myself. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I didn't get home till 10 or 11 o'clock that night, and it was a pretty distressful time. And I only had 14 technicians and 2 service advisors left, and a couple of parts guys and my managers, and we kept the store alive. And I'm really happy to say I'm back up to 39 technicians back now, up from 14. Got my whole staff back as far as my management staff in parts and service. And, we're back up to, 4 trucks on the road for parts, and I'm back up to 6 service advisors. So we're getting back up there, and the operations, we're getting back to just about the normal. So, a few more people will come back, and we're going to be excited for that. And we're hoping to happen that in the last quarter of this year. And then we'll be back to right where we need to be.
And your service, I've been in your shop. We took a walk through there, and your service drive is beautiful. It's just magnificent. That indoor drive can, how many vehicles can fit inside that? Just the drive alone.
The drive alone, because we stage night pickup too. So we can fit 150 cars in the drive at any given time. And, it's 4 lanes of service. And, we partnered up with My Dealer Lot, MDL, for dispatch now. And it goes great. Everything's, touchless. And my advisors are all on, iPad technology. with CDK and CDK service, as well as Karma. So, and all of our payment links are through Karma now. So we've really come a long way as far as efficiency goes. I don't know how long it used to take you to pick up a car when we got done with service, but we're under 7 minutes now. So which is we're pretty proud of that number.
Mark Mickens leading the way at Lithia Mercedes-Benz of Paramus. Mark, thank you so much. Congratulations. You're going to be on top. I see it already. Okay. And,
yeah, we're getting there.
We're
getting close. So we're really excited about our future. And I have a great young staff that I enjoy being around every day. They keep me young. And they're great people. And I want to give a shout out to my staff because it's we're getting there because they're doing the hard work every day, and they're enthusiastic and inquisitive and innovative, and I like it. And it's really, I could jog to work every day. I like to get there. So thanks for having me, Ted. It's a great service that you provide in our industry, and you guys do a great job with it. And I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark Mickens, thank you so much.
Take care.
Well, Ted, and now we have a great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, someone who has been with us really since the very beginning, pretty much, and someone who brings great value to our industry.
Gene, we're very honored to have John Traver of Traver Connect with us today. And John, you're doing amazing things for the industry. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yes, Ted, thank you for having us. I love the theme of the show, Greatest Show, here in September 2020. So can't wait to get this started.
Well, we can't wait to hear what you got, John. So the show is yours.
All right, well, we'll get right at it. So Greatest Show, here we are, September 2020, 5 months into COVID-19. I ran into this around April of this year, and it just struck me. It was so apropos for what we were all going through. It was somebody that wrote this out in kind of the journey of the last 20 years of what we as a human race really have gone through. Y2K, how many of you guys remember Y2K and the 1999 code that was going to stop the world? Anthrax, West Nile, SARS, the bird flu, E. coli, the financial collapse, all the way through ISIS, North Korea. And here we are sitting on top of coronavirus. Now, I'm not here to tell you what we're walking through, what the timelines are, et cetera, right? But what I wanted to do really was bring some perspective to the journey that we're all on. I think there's many responses to fear, but there's two that I want to talk about today. I think the first one is, in a word, it's abandon. And I think for some, fear makes us abandon what we're doing. We sort of, veer right or we veer left. And I think Corona's brought us more than just a virus. I think we'd all agree with that. It's brought some doubt. And which has led some businesses to abandon. I remember back in 1997, and you do too, Steve Jobs returned to Apple. And what was interesting was he kind of responded in two ways. They were really proud of their distribution system for their microprocessors, if you remember that. I mean, it was a thing, and it was like Fort Knox, the way they handled them. But they had this new personal digital assistant that they had 5 years invested in. It was now cash flowing. It was called the Newton. Smile and wave if you remember the Newton. Yeah. So, they scrapped it. Steve scrapped that. He abandoned the Newton. Now, you and I both know that was the footprint for what you and I use today and we call the smartphone. No lie. Well, I was in Houston, Texas. That was 97. And there was another guy by the name of Michael Dell. And Michael Dell was, he was also in the computer business. And a question he was asking was, why the heck do you need a distribution system? Michael was improving. And so my first point today is just to highlight the fact that we can abandon and navigate. We can improve and navigate. We can do both. But I think the key here is that as leaders, our job is to keep a highly motivated team of people together in spite of the fact that we're fractured, maybe working from home, and make certain that our teams stay ahead of a growing base of customers. We have to read what the customer wants. We have to read what they're perceiving, right? So what I want to do today is share with you, I had a call recently with somebody I respect greatly in this industry, somebody you probably know, And they called me and they said, hey, John, what percentage of lube oil filter calls only do you get? And I said, well, can you qualify that? And they said, yeah. They said, so yeah, I just need a lube oil filter. And I said, that's it. No 30K, no rotate, no nothing. He said, yes. And we take tens of thousands of calls on very small increments daily here. So I said, I said, what do you think it is? And this person said, I'm guessing 3/4 of your calls. And I said, no, it's not even close to that. I said, it's less than half. Well, so I reached out to a friend of yours and a friend of mine, Miss Sarah Van Tyne, Scott Clark Auto Group. And I just was curious to see if Sarah had a pulse before I went to our own database. And Sarah said, it's not the majority, it's definitely the minority. And I said, yeah, I was hoping you would say that. So I go to Reba Davidson here in our client services group. Reba's been with us for years, worked her way up through our organization. And I said, Reba, can you just give me a few stores? So I wanted to share with you real quick what we found. The first thing she grabs is a CDJR store, and the trailing 30-day window she gave me, 933 calls we answered, 155 were lube oil filter only, about 17% of the calls. The next was an import store. It was a Kia store, 890 calls, so right at 900. And it was 159 and 18%. So pretty similar number, right? So then she grabs a Chevrolet store. And Chevrolet, this store, 900 calls, 255, 28%. Now, before you get too far, remember General Motors pays for multiple oil changes and a few rotates in the first 2 years of ownership. So it should be a little bit higher. So what am I saying here to you? Am I saying these are the numbers? Am I saying right or wrong? Not at all. What I'm saying is, do you know your numbers? Do you know the numbers that matter? When all of us got in this business, somebody told us at some point, hey, this is a numbers game. Am I right? And so the question is, are the numbers the same? Not at all. They continue to evolve, but it's still a numbers game. And so what I want to do today is focus on the numbers that really matter. And I thought, well, what better place to start than what clients say when they call in and talk to us? So as we listen to calls, there's a similar theme. There's 5 things we typically hear with new clients. The first is they tell us, hey, look, we're having a problem with inbound calls. We have more calls than we have people. And there's a couple ways you can attack that if that's your challenge. You can handle it in store by building your own team, centralize the calls. You can use a virtual company. That's part of what we built and what we do. You can use a combination of those two, where you have a couple people on site and then a team behind them that catches what they don't get, right? The second problem we hear is outbound calls. We need an efficient system. We're like wheelbarrowing our way with lists. It takes all this time. We only make one attempt. There's all these issues. So you need a really good system for outbound, and we're prepared to help folks with that. Education. What we've learned is that everyone is understanding that sales is definitely different than service. And there are specific things you have to have people prepared for to do in order to do well with a service BDC. Mentoring. We'll have stores call us and say, hey, look, we have our own service BDC. We've been doing this for 2+ years, but we don't know if we're making money. We don't really know what we're measuring ourselves against. And so they need a relationship that gives them that beacon, that guideline that sort of directs them. And the last thing we'll hear from new clients is, John, this is my favorite. John, let me tell you how I know our service BDC is working. When I see our advisors spending time with our customers in the lane, not being overrun by phone calls, and somebody else is providing a level of service with our calls, and that could be our own team, it doesn't matter. Then I know we have an effective business development process for our service lane. I love that. So what I'm going to highlight today in terms of knowing our numbers is incoming calls. And I thought that this would mean a lot to you. So I'm going to give you a couple numbers real quick, okay? First of all, 70% of your customer pay, warranty pay, monthly average. So if you're writing 1,000 ROs a month, it would be 70% is 700. That's the amount of incoming new appointment call opportunities you're going to average on a monthly basis. Now, I'm not giving you that to you as a critical number. If you're off by 5%, don't sweat it. If you're off by 30, don't sweat it. But listening and handling millions of calls now for almost 10 years in service, that's pretty much the sweet spot, okay? So the question is, in increments of 100, does it matter if I send the calls to the service drive or to a team of people answering? So I want to show you what's happening. Calls sent to the service drive. If you get, for every 100 calls you receive coming in, the first problem you have is missed calls. because 100% of these calls aren't answered. They're offline, there's hold times, and I'm going to try and show you that a little bit here today, but about 20%. So that's somewhere between 1 out of 4 and 1 out of 5. So you really have 80 calls. That's the first issue you have. The second issue is what percentage of those calls are actually appointment related. Not 100% of calls that hit the service lane are technically service calls. Some of those are service status calls, but not an appointment call. Some are for parts and they need to be rerouted. Some are accidental and they need to go back to F&I or sales. The scheduled appointments when handled in the service lane run about 65%. And we look at the national dashboards like X Time, Time Highway. And as we look at this, when it's set by an advisor with a date and time, it's about 2/3. Showed ROs run about 3/4, 71%. And so if you're averaging 275 in RO, that's 9,000 in revenue that hits the till. So you say, okay, if we centralize this, if we have a couple people here answering calls, or we build a team, or we hire someone to help us centralize these calls and solve this problem. 100 calls, the first thing you can overcome is missed calls, right? So you really are dealing with 90 opportunities. The scheduled appointments, just like anything else, when you give a group of people a particular task, they master it. You are looking for 90, 80, 80. You're looking for about 90% of your calls to be appointment related, somewhere in the 80s scheduled. If it's less than that, what that means is your backlog is probably, you're 3 weeks out. And so people don't want to schedule. So you want to look at that number. Your showed rate. You want to be somewhere in the 80s. When we track shows, we pull the DMSs, so we're always looking for closed. So what you find is that same amount of opportunities for every 100 calls is twice the money. It's twice the money. See, these are the numbers that matter. It is a wow, isn't it? So when we track through what we're doing, we track calls to appointment related. So we source that stuff. And this is what we would like you to start looking at. From appointment related, start thinking about your schedule. You want to be in the 80s there, right? 90, 80, 80. And from scheduled to closed, this is 76. That's not alarming. Those are probably work in progress deals, just not out back on the road yet. Remember, we track to the close of the RO. So there you go. So numbers that matter. One of the things that happened in those numbers that I want to also highlight for you is this. This is a screenshot of real numbers from one of our stores that we love to use. We just change it to Anytown dealership. But this is the percentage of appointments that showed that were set in X time by advisors of that store. 73.4%. You see that? Now that number is the sum total of two things. Number one, customers that called a DID number and talked to the advisor directly. And number two, customers that drove up without calling ahead and the advisor put them in the schedule, which is a 100% show rate, right? So that show rate is kind of inflated. This here is a result of calls being forwarded to a centralized contact center who does nothing but schedule service, okay? In this case, it was us. And what you should be looking at is the delta. 13 percentage points for every 100 calls that you send to us. I don't care if you put your people on the roof. I do. But I think my point is when you centralize calls, you're talking an additional 13 ROs in a stall for every 100 calls. Let that sink in. And if you're handwriting 1,500 ROs a month, you're talking 1,000 calls a month. You're talking 130 ROs a month at 10% times 12 months. It's an extra month of business every year. You're now operating in a 13-month year. So you might say, how do I know how we're doing? I think what I would do if I were you, I'd look at three things, right? First of all, what we do here is we do this customer experience survey. Call us. Let us perform one of these. We do it for free. We call over a period of days, varied times, early morning, early afternoon, late afternoon, and we basically track how long did it take us to get through. And then are you updating email address, phone? Are you asking for mileage? Are you making a recommendation based on time and mileage to that customer before they come in? All these things change the game for you. And then last but not least, when you set appointments, are they real appointments? Do we ever say, just bring it in, right? So to me, this is the MRI or the X-ray of what you got going on. Last but not least, I would just say, let's remember that 3 out of 4 calls that hit that switchboard of yours are for service and parts. And you got Google, Marchex, Call Source, all these folks track this through your mobile clicks. Here, you got Google saying 16% go unanswered. When customers do connect, 63% of the time, there's no attempt to get the customer to make an appointment. 66% of the time, we don't ask for the customer's information. You and I go into the optometrist, and the first thing they do is update our records. So you're getting a 3% return on your marketing, but the question is, what would happen if that data that you're marketing to was 100% up to date? You would improve your return, okay? The other thing I wanted to highlight was in February, our good friends at Update Promise, we partnered with, because as Kurt Nixon and I began to talk, and his team, Rich, and the whole crew there, we saw the ecosystem of the service BDC, and we were always asking ourselves, how do we take this thing farther for our stores? Kurt and his team have done an incredible job of developing tools that make a difference in the drive. And so what we've done is integrate what we do from a high touch standpoint into the technology piece that Kurt and his team offers. And I hope you guys will take an opportunity to take a look at what they've done and look for what we're doing in the future. So let's wrap it up. I am a huge, huge fan of the Fortune 500. I always have been. And, when I look back, it was started in 1955. Back then, the top 10 were General Motors, Jersey Standard, U.S. Steel, GE, Esmark, Chrysler, Armor, Gulf Oil. Everybody remembers that one. Mobil, and DuPont. And I think DuPont's the only one that's been on every Fortune 500 list. I wanted to show you something real quick. 10 years ago, this was our list. Walmart, Exxon, Chevron, Conoco, Fannie Mae, GE, Berkshire, GM, Bank of America, and Ford. So coming into this year, folks, two of the top 10 are still there. So what's the message? The message is our jobs in this business we're in, the way we know it, will eventually change and is changing. And what we've talked about today was that fear either makes us abandon or improve, but the bottom line is both are your choice. Maybe the one blessing from COVID is that we've all been forced to stop, to look, to listen to our businesses and now our industry. The question is, are we listening, and will we respond intelligently? I look forward to seeing that response. Ted, Gene, thanks for having us today.
John Traver from Traver Connect. John, you've made the case when dealers ask, is there a case for having the BDC? What are the numbers? I can point to what you just showed us. So amazing presentation, John. Very clear. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Ted.
And it's always great to have you, John. We appreciate it very much. And now it's time to go to another special guest, and that is Matthew McConaughey.
All right.